Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Painted in Color podcast. I'm co-host Lauren Brown, joined by co-host Mia Araujo and Eric Wilkerson. Today, we're going to talk about our recaps from two amazing conventions, Lightbox Expo and Illuxcon. Lightbox, which is in Pasadena, California, and Illuxcon, which is in Reading, PA. I went to Lightbox and Eric went to Illuxcon. And so we're just going to do a recap about what we saw, what we learned, what we experienced, and hopefully people enjoy hearing what happened at these two awesome cons. So yeah, how's everybody doing today? How was Illuxcon, Eric?
So Illuxcon is always kind of like that warm blanket. I don't know like how else to describe it. I've also described it as the ending to Return of the Jedi, where they're in the Ewok village and everybody's hugging each other after the Death Star explodes, and the Ewoks are dancing and everybody's clapping and all happy and hugging on one another. That's the vibe, and it's like that for the whole week, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, it's the main show goes for a week-long stretch, and then there's the showcase on a Friday and Saturday night, and then it ends and wraps up on a Sunday. But man, it's like everybody you ever wanted to see, they're all there. The heavyweights, the legends, all the magic card painters and the original paintings and their stuff, and like visual development artists are there, and there's like people bringing life-size sculptures. It's just insanity. But then you walk up to these people and you really get to, it's not jam-packed like a New York Comic-Con or a Dragon Con where it's just wall-to-wall people. You can really just walk up to somebody and say, hey, I love your work. How did you create this? And then get real deep into conversations with artists that you admire. And for me, it's fantastic because I get to see friends that I only see once a year. Yeah, we communicate through Facebook, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
And just to be in their presence, just to be in each other's presence and catch up and to laugh and like all of that. It's the end of Star Wars. It's the end of Return of the Jedi every single year. And it without fail, it holds on to that same energy every single year. Like nobody's like, screw this, I'm never coming back.
So no, everybody like is dying to come back afterwards.
It's weird. It's a weird thing, but yeah.
Is it like the size of the, I'm sorry, Lauren.
Oh, no, go on.
No, I was going to say, is it the size of the Spectrum convention? I only went to that one once.
God,
where it feels
no.
like
It's like way more.
It's more.
There's
It's
way
bigger.
more energy, way more. Con has it attracts a lot of collectors. There's college students, art students blow through there. A lot of random folks come through, and they're all buying.
Wow.
And the showcase has become increasingly popular over the years, and that room I feel was packed full of not just artists but attendees that were looking to buy smaller items, $350 and $500 here, or larger paintings. But yeah, it was decently attended. The showcase,
And the showcase is the general like
the
artist
showcase is
show?
like for every, so there's the main show where it's a juried.
Mhm.
It's usually the same people get in every year unless
Right.
somebody gets sick or can't do it. It's like the same. They just go right back to their spots where they were the year before. Every once in a while, I think they shuffle it, but it's usually the same group. Everybody else, but it's also has to do with the fact that some people don't have a week to kill just sitting
Right.
around at a
Yeah.
convention, right? So the showcase is good for them where they can just do 2, I think it's 5-hour nights for, Friday and Saturday night. And from what I've done this showcase before, and it's a great incentive for people to pull the trigger on an art sale. Like, you're not gonna walk around for half a week thinking, well, maybe I should go buy that painting. You got a couple hours to think about it,
Mhm.
right? Got to get it before somebody else does. And that's usually what happens. Like, one of the art directors I was talking to, she saw a painting that uh, another artist had done, that an artist had done in the show, and I was talking to her. She said, there's a painting over there of a dog pooping, and I want that painting. It was just this little grayscale.
Oh, is it I think I know what you're talking about.
It was like a series. There's this I think it was Rovina. I think it was.
Was it Reiko Murakami?
Rico. Yeah, thank you.
I
I knew
love
it started with an R. She was doing these paintings, these little black and white studies of dogs pooping.
So great.
And this art director, she's like, I want that so bad. She couldn't decide on which one. She's like, do I go with the one where it's squatting or the one where it's squatting? And I'm like, go with the one where it's squatting.
Yeah, you go.
But we were just dying laughing over that. But it was just a great time. So yeah, that's
So as you're going around during the week, like what kind of other activities are y'all doing outside of just talking to people and looking at art?
right. So there's panels, different lectures that artists do. There's different art demos that happen, lectures on painting that happen. I have the program guide, and I swear to you, I always want to go to some of those panels, but I am always talking to somebody, catching up with somebody, and before I know it, it's like 3 hours has gone by, and I'm like totally missed all the activities. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to engage the students that come through and all that. What I've also seen is what I think what's also been really cool for the show are the portfolio reviews that they offer. So there's always a mixed bag of book publishers, gallery curators, and Magic the Gathering art directors that come through, and those slots fill up so fast. And students start panicking, going, oh my God, I didn't get my slot. And like, I guess I got to settle for showing my stuff, my sci-fi paintings, this art gallery. I'm like, like just to get some kind of critique on their stuff. And what was cool for me this year was I had about almost a dozen students some of my former students come through. Some flew out from other countries and other parts of the United States to meet me there. And because I had been talking about the convention, up and down, and like how great it was. I wanted them to actually get to meet some of their illustration heroes and pick their brain and network and see what that was like. Because I don't want any student to just take my word for it. I want them to just be able to, well, there's Boris, go get him. He's just sitting there. There's Julie Bell, go get her. Talk to her, pick her brain. Anybody, whoever the artist might be. And some artists are at their booths in the main show, and it's like a low traffic area at a certain point in time. And I was telling them about this one guy named Christophe Vacher, who is a visual development artist for different animation studios. He worked on Transformers Prime and all these different cartoons. And he's got this wealth of information when it comes to color theory and all the stuff, because I've sat and talked to the man. And it's just like a masterclass. It's like talking to James Gurney. It's like, oh my God, it's like, it's overload. And I said, you see that man over there? He worked on Transformers. Nobody's bothering him right now. Nobody's talking to him about nothing. Go get him. Like,
Sick him. It's like basically
sick him.
Students will
And
swarm.
so my students are looking at me and they're like, should we? I'll go if you go. Oh, like they're all nervous. And so I was like, all right, just go on over there. We'll stay. We won't get lunch until you are finished talking to him. An hour later, we're like, look, we got to go eat. We're starving. So like half the group broke off and we went to go get food. And then the rest of them were sitting there talking to Christoph. And it was like an hour just giving them, like, critiquing their portfolios and everything. That was better than any portfolio review they were ever going to get or have to get in line for. Right. Just go ask somebody, just go talk to somebody. So I tell students, and I'm telling anybody watching this, if you don't get the portfolio review of your choice, that art director, that person is still walking around.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they came here for. That's what they came here to do. And if they are unable to, if they're just burnt out for the day and they're not really in the mood to give a review, if they say, hey, like, meet me tomorrow at this time and I'll talk to you, then cool. I've also heard stories, Illuxcon stories of, was the art director from Orbit was in the bathroom and some girl came up to her and was like, hey, I need a portfolio review. I'm like, can I wash my hands? Like, it was one of those kind of like cringy moments. And the girl was like, well, no, I got a flight to catch.
Oh my God.
Thinking, you have now cemented your face with this person, with this art director. Like, yeah, sure, you might get your review, but you will never get work from this person. So like, I hope it was worth it. But yeah, it has a very positive, it's a very positive vibe. Tons of people are coming through. It's a very chill atmosphere for artists to talk to other artists, students to pick the brains of, working professionals. And that's what I wanted for my students, to really get a chance to meet these people. The funniest moment for me, personally, I just almost fell on the floor. One of my students is a big fan of Boris Vallejo's work, but had no idea what the man looked like. Not a clue. So Boris is sitting there, but there just happened to be a man standing in front of Boris, because there was a tribute to a sci-fi illustrator named Steve Hickman that was like off to Boris's left side. And there was somebody standing in front of Boris, but standing in front of the Steve Hickman tribute, looking at some stuff. And I was like, hey, there's Boris. Like, you could go talk to him. Like, he's just right there. Nobody's bothering him. Go, like, just gush. Like, tell him how much you love his stuff. She thought I was pointing at the dude that was standing in front of Steve Hickman's work. And she's like, hello, Mr. Boris. And I'm like, no. And it's like the guy is like this middle-aged black dude. And I'm like, no, that's not him. That's not him. That's not him at all. And I had to apologize to this poor man. He's like, what the hell? He's like, what the hell's going on? And I said, no, I meant to say the guy behind this guy. And it was hilarious to me. I thought I almost fell out. You were like, thanks a lot, Eric.
But, well, we all know what they look like, but
yeah, we all know. But if you're,
they're not gonna know.
Yeah. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, but tell us about Lightbox. What was it like to actually be there for realsies?
Nice, because like I obviously like I hadn't gone to the 2019 show, so I never saw what it was like in person. I've only done the Discord shows where we started, our show. And like those experiences were really awesome just on their own, getting to talk to so many artists and all that stuff. But man, it pales into comparison of like from doing the show in person. So like first off, I roll up and in my Uber and I see like they have this like giant like Lightbox like expo like letters like they have like giant letters like on like the convention grounds I guess, and there's like 3 different buildings. And so I was like, oh, this is like a legit like production, like this is a thing. I think probably I know the last numbers from 2019 were about 100,000. So it's not like a ton of people either like Dragon Con or like Comic Con or anything like that. Which is for the better because it makes it much more possible to talk to people and to get around. And a lot of the artists in the artist alley were kind of like lauding the fact that they had like so much room like behind their booths. I think that there was another convention that did not like give them like any space whatsoever. And this one was just like really spacious, really nice. And so, I get there and I don't have an exhibitor badge because I didn't get a chance to get a table for the artist alley. So I was just going as an attendee, but I really wanted to, help out my friends and also just like go to the parties. And so I was just like, okay, like there's gotta be somebody who has an extra like badge. And I'm sorry, Bobby Chi, don't like get mad at me for getting a badge, but I belong there. So I, like Naomi like Vanderin tells me, she's like, you come and help me. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so I get like a sticker that says like I'm helping the vendors. And so I walk in like I own the place and like meet all my friends who are already in there setting up. And already there's just like some amazing artists that are just like setting up their booths and people who I've followed for years. Just I was blown away because I'm like, wow, like this is so cool. I haven't met these people before, but I also can talk to them because I guess I exist in the same realm, but I was still a little bit nervous about going up to them and just making conversation. So like, I just like, what I had to do was just like break the barrier just by like asking like actual like tabling questions. They're like, oh, like, like this is your first time doing Lightbox, like did you set up? And we would just like talk from like artist to artist kind of perspective. And so, like that makes it a lot easier to approach anybody because you do have a lot of common ground to come from to speak to people. And, they will give you their time of day, like almost all the time. There's not one conversation that I had at Lightbox that was unpleasant. There wasn't one conversation where they didn't want to talk to me. And like, especially when they found out like what my career actually is, they're like, oh, like I actually want to hear about your experiences too. And so, it was a really dope kind of convention to go to because everybody is just like really knowledgeable and passionate about art. There's a ton of students as well at Lightbox Expo, like industry hopefuls, trying to break in and getting their portfolio reviews. And so there were a lot of people who, had also met me and like came up and like started talking to me just about, what their work was, what their portfolio was. And, it was just like such an awesome experience. So day one was like, so the panel system was interesting because the way that it worked in order to get to a panel was that you had to go to the panel room while the previous panel was ongoing. You had to get a little card that had like, the number that you have in line and what room number it was. And you had to then you had to take that card and then come back when people are lining up for the panel in order to get in. If you miss the amount of cards that they had to hand out, you're not getting in that panel because the amount of cards were the amount of seats that were available inside that room. So, so I tried to go to I think there was a fashion panel by Oscar Vega and I was really sad that I couldn't go because I didn't know how the system worked before then. But then afterwards, I made sure that I, got the appropriate, kind of like protocol observed. And so the first one that I went to was like social media and like burnout, basically like how to manage social media better because I'm really bad at social media. And, it was a really like awesome panel, but people were knowledgeable. Like a ton of people asked questions. And, Friday was also just about like seeing a lot of old friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. and just kind of like gallivanting around and looking at Artist Alley and hanging out. And so that was really nice too. I also spent time just having conversations and meeting really cool people. And then so Saturday kind of popped off because it started with there was a Black creatives panel. And so I wanted to go and see that. So the people from 9B were there. So Phil was there, got to meet him in person finally. Like Mike Rwandi, who also started 9B. Marlon West, Disney legend, was there. And so was Kristen, our love, Kristen Garland was on the panel, Frank Abney. And so it was just like an amazing panel. And, that was when I was really like, oh man, I have to like get involved with Lightbox next year, like really get involved, because like, this is just so awesome. And they all have so much experience, and it's just amazing. So I was like really excited to, finally meet a lot of these people in person. And while I'm watching the panel, when the Q&A section opens up, somebody gets in line. I only see like the back of their head, and they introduce themselves. And I was like, I think that is a friend of mine that I haven't seen in literally 11 years since I graduated SCAD. And like someone who I like really love dearly, like in line, like asking questions. And I was like, oh my God, that's my friend. And so I go up after the panel is over, and like I tap her on the shoulder, and like she turns around and like just immediately hugs me, and she's like, oh my God. And like, so it was like an amazing reunion there. But they also knew like her and her partner also knew some of the people on the panel too. So she was like, oh, we're all going to lunch later. And I'm like, let's go. Oh yeah, Everett Downing was also on that panel too, the person who did My Dad the Bounty Hunter. Yeah. And so, like we run out of time for Q&A. We all go outside in the hallway to talk. And I immediately like get into a conversation with Marlon West, and like a really, really good conversation. Like I get to hear all about his backstory and all about like, his life, and like how basically being a Black animator in the industry for like as long as he's been in it, how it was like, and like finding like the few Black people that were also there. But like, I was like sharing my experiences about working in gaming. And so like, it was just like so cool. And Marlon West is like a dope person. We definitely need to have him on the show. And he said he would want to come on the show, by the way. So maybe that could come up. That'd be really tough. Yeah. So so I talked to Marlon, and then I talked to Mike Owandi for a little bit. I got to meet Phil in person. And it was just like the coolest thing. So we all leave, we go to wait for lunch, and Everett joins us for just a little bit, but like really the entire day was just like I spent with like mostly Black animators and Black people, just talking about like, just like what it's like to work in the industry. And that's also where I met, like a recent graduate who, she was like, I think actually her question in the panel was more of a statement of like, if you want to come up and talk to artists, like, you can always talk to them, but you should also find something that you can offer them to. Like, if you can give them something, if you can offer them anything, then do, because a lot of people don't utilize this, where, we can help each other out in many different ways. And so like, I thought that was really cool too, because she was a student with like a lot of like, she's like very wise, I guess not a student, but recent graduate. So very young, not in the industry yet, but just like, so I spent a lot of time with her, and spent a lot of time with just my friends and these amazing people in the industry. And so later that day, they introduced me to Anthony Francisco, who had designed the costumes for the Dora Milaje, and like I think was the reason why Denai Guerrero was cast as Okoye, because he used her in his concept art before the casting was made. And they're just like, actually, like, this is pretty good. And so and so they cast her. And so he amazing person, had a lot of conversations with him. And so like, there was just so many like different experiences. I sat like on the stairs outside for a while, and like, I couldn't be alone for 10 minutes before someone I knew came up to me and was like, hey, how are you doing? Like, Lauren. And like, it was just such an awesome convention. It like, from back to front, I was so inspired. I was so energized. And it just like felt like I could really be myself and just meet so many new people. So I have like a ton of new people I'm following on Instagram. And it's just like, Lightbox was incredible. Ask me questions before I keep rambling, because I'm gonna keep rambling.
I heard that that whole ticket thing to get into the panels kind of blew up, and it was like standing room only. They started squeezing people in.
Yeah. I think that the system definitely, I think that was my only like issue with Lightbox actually, was that, the ticketing system, because it made it really difficult to see the panels that you wanted to see. Even though I understand it, but I think that it could benefit from having like an app sign up instead, like, the day of, so that people don't have to like be at the right place at the right time and then come back to the right place. It was like a pretty inconvenient, especially when you're like bouncing around between so many different things. And so, yeah, but they did start opening standing room, like some people would leave, like in the middle of the panel, like near the end of the panel before Q&A. And so I think that people had the opportunity to get into the panel room. But yeah, overall, I think a lot of people were kind of sad about the panel setup and situation.
Well, that was new because, I'm sorry, Eric, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it sounds like they either outgrew the venue
Mhm.
already, or they need an extra day.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think either of those could be valid. It's because the venue didn't feel like it was too small for its britches until the panels, had like they had to accommodate all the lines for the panels, and like people would be kind of like packed in like, that the second building. Because the first building was the Artist Alley building, and that one had a lot of room, and then the second building was all the panels. And you could see like just like multiple different lines were like lined up against the wall, like lined up in the middle of the foyer. So it did kind of get a little squeezy after a while. So yeah. Mia, what were you about to say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that they didn't have the ticketing system the first year that I went. It was literally just line up, first come, first serve, and people were super lined up and stuff. But I think there probably were more people this year because of the pent up demand from the 2 years online. A lot of people that flew in. So they probably tried that. But hearing about it reminded me of CTN, where they had tickets as well. And it felt like you didn't know where to go, and there was that venue felt definitely too small for how many panels there were. And from the first year for Lightbox, I don't know if it felt like this for you too, but it felt like every like time slot had 5 great panels, so you were like missing 5 great things that you wanted to see, and even if you got to see something awesome, you still felt like you were missing out.
Yes, like that was such the case, absolutely. When I was like looking at the schedule and I was like, oh man, I want to go to that, I want to go to that, I want to go to that, I look at all the times and they all overlap, or they overlap like, they start in the middle of this panel that I already want to go to. So you really have to pick and choose which ones you want to get to. And also the unfortunate thing too is that if you're at a panel, even if your next panel starts like a little bit after that one ends, you still would have had to go and get that ticket before it was too late. And so a lot of like times when I would get out of the panel, I'm like, okay, like I really want to go to this one now, it would already be full. And so I couldn't get in. I'm like, oh shoot, I guess I go back to the Artist Alley and like meet up with more friends, which worked out really well. But it was also really sad because there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to see that I didn't get a chance to observe. So yeah. A bit unfortunate.
Is there any chance, I don't know if you even know this, but is there any chance of them, do you know if they recorded any of those panels?
I believe, yes, they did. I know for a fact that they did. I don't know if they posted any of them yet, but they were recording, most of the panels that I was in, which is all of 3. But I think that it was a pretty regular thing that they were recording these. So hopefully we can see the recordings later, because I really want to catch up on some of these.
Because even if they just posted on YouTube after the fact, like here's what you missed.
Yeah.
Right. That would be smart, because that would be able to get people excited for the next one and not want to, it's like free advertising,
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm pretty sure that they're probably going to post their panels. And so, fingers crossed that they actually do, because there's a lot that I wanted to see. Oh yeah, so also on Saturday though, they had a concept art awards. I don't know if anybody's heard about this, but they, kind of like highlighted all the concept artists that worked on various different things like behind the scenes. And so that was really interesting. So that was how they utilized the third building. So like, there's like this big, like kind of like rustic, like theater building in the middle, and then these 2 buildings on the side of it. And so building on the the right side was Artist Alley building, on the left side was panels, and the building in the middle was where they had the awards. And so, it was pretty cool, like award ceremony setup. And like they, highlighted all people like environment, design, character design, concept art, costume, et cetera. And so that was a pretty cool like ceremony that I don't really get to see that often from other conventions or things like that. So that was pretty dope. And like me and Anthony and like somebody actually who listens to the show met me there. So she was also sitting with us. And that is where actually I met your sister, Mia. And so like I enjoyed that. And then after the concept art awards was the Procreate party. And that was like a really cool venue too. That's where I really got to kind of like talk to Mike Uwandi a little bit more. There was a lot of dancing to be had. Like they were actually playing pretty good bangers at this party. And I ended up actually meeting a bunch of other students, that were interested in breaking into the industry and showed me their portfolios like while we were at this party. But we also just like had a fun time like dancing together and just having conversations and hanging out in this really cool venue. So something I've realized about myself is that like my capacity for energy, like my battery, like it used to be like probably up to here. I think now it's like probably down here. So when it runs out and I hit a wall, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm having a lot of fun. I also need to go home right now. So it was like running at high octane all weekend, and like by Sunday, I really started to like get like just drained because there were so many amazing conversations and so many cool stuff so much cool stuff that was happening. So I took it a lot easier on Sunday, after the partying was done. Just got to like have lunch with people who I didn't get to see in a while or hadn't met in person before. And like then like kind of like chill in a merry way. So yeah, but it was an amazing convention, and cannot recommend it enough for people who want to attend Lightbox. And like it was just a great time. I still feel like the kind of like high from it even now a little bit.
Where part of California is this in?
Pasadena, California. So right outside of LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I think there's like Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, like out like if you know like the trajectory of like those little cities. But yeah, like I was staying with my best friend in Burbank, and it took about probably like 20 minutes flat drive to get there. There wasn't really any traffic either, which was very impressive. I was like, oh, I was like, oh, this is nice. Like LA is the place with all the traffic. Real bad.
Well, I might have to go back. I might have to go out there. All right.
Unfortunately, I think Lightbox and Illuxcon might be on the same weekend next year.
It is. Huh.
This year was like back to back, right?
Yeah, they're back to back, but I think next year they're going to be at the exact same time. So you have to choose between one or the other, which is super sad because I also want to go to Illuxcon.
Yeah, I would too. I've never been to Illuxcon. I've heard so many good things. And again, for people, I guess towards the top, we didn't say, but Illuxcon, would you say is more geared towards fantasy, sci-fi art, sort of book illustration, kind of, and fine art, I guess. But
it's
the fantasy genre.
Yeah, it's definitely aimed at publishing, tabletop gaming, art, gallery work, sculptures, things like that. Lightbox is everything else.
Yeah, it's like entertainment art, exactly.
Yeah, Lightbox is definitely entertainment art, more about animation and gaming and the concept art side of things. There's some 3D, but mostly with a focus in 2D art in those realms. So you'll meet a lot of people who work at Marvel, Disney, Pixar. Riot was there, various different game studios, and also art academies. But yeah, you'll see a lot of that kind of art at Lightbox.
Oh yeah, it is definitely. Yeah, it's definitely the same exact days.
Oh no!
Oh no! Tragic.
Yep.
I had a couple questions for each of you. Eric, from what you heard, since neither of you were exhibiting, did people do well sales-wise at Illuxcon? And is it typically a good sales day for most people, or was it different this year? Like, was it better or worse?
What's interesting is with the main show, the sales can depend on whether or not a Magic card set came out that month, because some of the same collectors that come to Illuxcon are also in the auctions buying those pieces. And if they've already blown their load, then there's no there's no reason for them to go to Illuxcon. But from all the red dots that I was seeing, depending on who you were, I think that a lot of people did well. I don't know about this showcase. I wasn't walking around asking like, how did you do? But again, I think it really depends on what your convention expenses were. For some people, if they only live didn't live far away, selling a couple of small paintings covered the trip.
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't know. But I had a chance to speak to one of my students was in the showcase, and she said she had a good show.
Cool.
And it was her first time doing tabling at a convention, period.
Oh, wow.
So she went full blast, play mats, everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was really impressed. But we'll see. I mean, so the main show, some people said it was okay. They just did okay. But again, like talking to somebody that does conventions a lot, when somebody says they just did okay, that could mean they only did a couple thousand instead of breaking that 5-figure barrier, right? No way to really know.
Right.
But Illuxcon's a weird beast, because there are people in the showcase selling stuff for $350, and then you go over to the main show, and if somebody sells a painting for $12,000, right, one painting, and have red dots on like 3 or 4 other pieces, you go, oh, you did okay.
You did more than okay.
You did all right. It was all right. But yeah, the main show is kind of weird with that, because you're just looking at all this art everywhere, and you see stuff selling. Even if one painting sells for the week, or 2 paintings sell for the week, and if both of those pieces were over $3,000,
that's a good month.
right? Yeah, you did okay. Plus whatever small things, prints, playmats, whatever it is, you, in addition to that, you might have in front of your booth. But I found it fascinating just to see people, to see their whole setup, and really get a chance to get up close on some of the artwork, stuff that you're really only seeing on Instagram and all that. Really study the brush strokes and the their colors and all that stuff. And some of my students were able to really appreciate, because some of them had never seen original fantasy illustrations like up close before. So it gave them a new appreciation for how much work actually goes into a painting, the rendering stage of things, and just a hierarchy of color choices and lighting and all that stuff. And some of them were looking at that work and saying, okay, well, now I know what I want to apply to my digital work, like having seen what this person is doing in oils. And they go, okay, well, great. So learning experience for everybody.
Awesome.
But yeah, but now I super want to go.
I was going to ask the same question to you, Lauren, if you could tell how people did there too. Same question.
Yeah, so I think that at Lightbox 2019, people, I don't think that they reported pretty good sales. They definitely acknowledge it as more of a convention to meet artists and get a chance to, kind of like network with people. Apparently 2022, not the case at all. It was, everybody reported amazing sales, like amazing sales. Like some people record breaking sales at Lightbox Expo.
Oh.
I think that like, people turning out, not being able to go to this convention in person, and also I felt like there was a big air of just general graciousness for all the artists that were there, and like people who have had fan bases for a long time. Were just swamped all weekend, like just had business all weekend. I heard that Originals had done really well at Lightbox, which is, it's not something I expected, because I know that a lot of what Lightbox is about is digital art. And the Originals, like, they were still performing. When I visited some friends who were tabling, there were just like, conversations and conversations happening, and I would just like talk to their assistants instead, and just be like, oh hey, like how's it going this weekend? And like, as I can see, it's pretty good. And so people like really wanted, because they're all artists, they were also really curious just about the process of how people made their art, and like what their journey was, and what the story behind each piece was. And so there was a real big sense of appreciation for all the artists that were there. And people definitely showed up and purchased a lot of art. And so people had really, really amazing sales. I think, oh yeah, I also saw Bree. I saw Bree for the first time in person. Yeah, I think Bree did really well. I got to finally, meet Bree for the first time. If anybody doesn't know, Bree Henderson has been on the show before. One of the people who had like made us start a Discord server, which was really fun, and just an amazing human being in general. I got to see like a ton of other friends, and all of them had reported just like huge success, and they were very happy. And not only were they happy, but they were just like really excited about the general vibes of the artist alley. Like they said it was like one of the nicest artist alleys that they had ever been to, just like in terms of the setup and the general customer base that was there. Because all of us are artists, like we know what we go through. And so yeah, it was it's definitely a convention that I would like to table at for sure. The artist alley is also extremely high caliber too, like people who are like, heavy hitters in the industry, and amazing table setups. Just beautiful art is everywhere. It's very hard to choose what to buy, because I'm just like, I just want everything. I want one of each, please. And so I tried to refrain from buying too many prints, because I'm still getting my house together, but I did get a few of Tron's prints, and I got a book from Bree, and I got a few other things as well. But yeah, it was a great artist alley, and the vibe was really chill and very easy to get around. So yeah, if anybody's thinking about tabling at Lightbox, hard to get into, but definitely seems like a very good convention to table at.
That's what I was going to say. It's literally the best in the industry. So if you don't get in, I would never take that personally, because it's incredibly competitive. But if you do get in, I would feel really good about yourself.
Yeah, I did not get in, but I was like, as soon as I walked around the artist alley, I was like, oh yeah, I can see why.
Yeah,
the competition was stiff. So yeah, like I completely didn't mind not getting into, because like being able to talk to people, and like going to panels and networking, and just making new friends is really, it was just purely worth it just for that, honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for a convention like that, I don't think I would get a table, because if I would have to not look at the catalog or the what's going on outside of that artist alley, because I would be pissed.
Yeah.
Like, all this is going on around me, and I gotta sit here.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, you'd feel like you're chained to your desk. You're like, I don't want to. I don't want to be stuck here. I want to get out there and talk to people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to get a booth buddy or something like that. Just like, do the sales for me. Like, if anybody asks, you're me.
A lot of people did have table assistants, but people really did want to meet the actual artist that was behind the work too. But like the table assistants were, putting in work too. They're holding it down. But yeah, recommend it for sure. I would definitely hire an assistant, if I get a chance to table at Lightbox too, because I want to be able to attend things A lot of artists had left to actually go to that social media panel too. So their assistants just took over while they attended panels. So there's definitely room for that, which is really nice. But yeah, big, awesome. Like I think that same deal with Illuxcon too. Everywhere you go in Lightbox, there's just industry heavy hitters just chilling around. Like offer them to go to lunch, like ask, like it's like, oh, like what are you doing? Have you eaten yet? Like if you can actually, there's so much room to spend quality time with these amazing people, and usually they're like very gracious about it. And like if they're not busy, then there's many opportunities to get portfolio reviews, many opportunities to just have good conversation. But like something that is like should not also be understated is that like they're people, and they're very easy to talk to because again, like we relate on like this level of like sharing in art. And that's what I found when talking to people like Marlon West or Anthony Francisco, like people who have been in the industry for years and have done amazing things, but ultimately are just people. And we just like reveled in just talking about the things that we're like passionate about. And so it was very easy to just have normal conversations with them. So, don't let people's industry status terrify you out of having those conversations, because you don't know how much you have in common, and like you don't know like how much time they're willing to give you. So, give them an opportunity to do their own thing if they need to. But if they have time and they're willing to give that time to you, then it's you don't have to always have to sign up for that portfolio review, or you don't always have to like make it, oh no, I didn't make it into this panel. They'll be around, you'll find them, it'll be okay. So it's definitely worth checking out at this convention, especially if you're looking to get into the industry, just if you're looking to expand your network, or trying to find a new job or a new switch. It's a great place to do that.
And I would just say, as I know I didn't go to either of these, but I just remember my experiences of going to CTN alone or going to conventions like this alone. It can be really intimidating, especially if you're not in the industry yet, to go to one of these events alone. It's like a lot of stimulation. It's a lot of like, oh, I'm going to miss out. But everyone there is in the same boat, even the people who know each other are also nervous. And so I would just say that to anyone who's kind of nervous about going alone, just go, because the worst that can happen is that you meet, someone else like you there, but it's like you will meet people, and just as long as you treat people with respect, kind of respect their boundaries, and just be kind, honestly. I think that what do you have to lose, you might be a little awkward, but so is, like I'm saying, half the people, if not more, are going to be awkward too, and it's okay.
Kind of all are a little awkward, and that's totally fine. Like most of the conversations that I had, like I was like, oh, I feel like I'm being awkward right now, but really, like no one noticed and no one cared, and like they also probably thought that they themselves were being awkward too. So it's like everybody has like that imposter syndrome kind of thing, or most people do, where they're just like, oh, I don't know, like and so I think that people are relatable because of that too. It's just like we're all in this together, like we all have similar struggles, and we all know what it was like to try to break into the industry for the first time too, and how scary that was. So just like have that be a comfort. And if you're like really introverted and if it's hard for you, I mean, see if a classmate or a friend is like willing to go with you too. Like it's nice to have that buffer, of someone who's also there to share this experience. I met a bunch of students that were in, like student groups, or like, like 5 or 10 of them like went together to this convention. And they had their own circle, but they also learned how to branch out and like talk to other people. And like you have somebody who's charismatic to like bridge that social gap, always really helpful. Get adopted by an extrovert, nice. So then that helps you kind of ease into the conversation a little bit smoother if you have a really hard time starting it yourself. But it's also a great ground to practice having those conversations too. Because there's like endless people to talk to there, and all of y'all are here for like, similar reasons. So yeah, use it as a wonderful ground, but Lightbox cannot recommend it enough. Bobby Chu did a great job.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it seriously is impressive. Yeah, and you can definitely tell the difference too, like a convention made by artists for artists. Like it's just it became like such a venue that's like intimate. Even though it was like a pretty big audience. And so you can definitely feel like the care that went into it.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but is that like, do we have anything else to talk about? Is there anything we want to leave people with?
I was actually gave I did an artist visit I could say I guest lectured uh at
Ooh.
FIT, Fashion
What?
Institute of Technology,
Wow.
um earlier today, and spoke to,
Today?
yeah,
Okay.
uh but I got a chance to speak to the illustration students, sophomores, juniors uh, in their illustration course, and they had never heard of Lightbox.
Oh,
And
wow.
there's like a number of things they hadn't heard of. They were asking me, it was funny because they were asking me questions about time management, burnout, and digital painting, and like a ton of stuff. Um, and I sometimes feel like there are students at different colleges that don't know about what's going on in the industry because their professors are kind of out of touch with what's going on in the industry. And
Mm.
like you have like tenured professors, master's degree having, folks that haven't done an illustration or haven't done anything in the industry for like 20 years or so. And so there's like there's there's what they know, and then it just stops.
Yeah.
So I'm telling the students, well, because one student was asking me, well, um how do I know if I should be following my heart, my passion, or uh doing something that I know will sell?
Hmm.
Because I think that was kind of the question, was because the thing that they're passionate about doesn't sell when they go to conventions, but when they do fan art or something like that, that sells. And I said, well, what kind of conventions are you going to? And she was basically saying like farmers market, kind of mom and pop,
Oh, no.
little like, local things at the mall kind of things, kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh God, oh no. So
No.
then I started listing off conventions, like, well, you need to go to an actual convention, find your audience. Like, you're not going to find your audience at a local craft fair kind of convention. Of course the fan art's gonna sell because that's recognizable.
Mhm.
But if you go to an actual convention, New York Comic Con, Awesome Con, all these different conventions all across the East Coast or West Coast, then you're going to be able to find your people. And if you attend regularly, they're going to recognize you, and then they're going to give you even more money.
Yeah.
But you're never going to know unless you take that chance. And so I said, okay, well, if you guys don't know what Lightbox is, I highly recommend you go look it up, find out what this is all about, because all of you are training to eventually create illustrations or concept art for some kind of product. You're here to learn how to make art that sells something, to help sell a product, whether that's a movie or a board game or whatever. And you should really know and be able to network and find out more about the industry that you're about to step into in a year and a half. So, but yeah, that blew me away. So we're sitting here talking about this, but I bet you there's at least one person going, lightbox.com. Like, I don't know what is this thing that they keep talking about, and that's fine, because the more you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The more awareness we can raise about it, the better, for sure. So definitely go to these conventions if you're looking for your people, because you absolutely find them there.
Yeah.
100%. Like, depending on if you want to go into animation / gaming or film, or if you want to go into fantasy illustration, traditional work, publishing, there's a place for you somewhere, for sure. Like, I feel like no matter what your interest is, there's a convention about it. So head over and and find your people, find your friends. It's an awesome, they're both awesome venues, and I really would love to go to Illuxcon one day. But I think in good conscience, I cannot pass up Lightbox for next year. It was just too good. So Illuxcon, I'm sorry, but you'll have to wait a little longer.
Yeah, for me, it's like a choice between driving or flying. I'm sorry, I'm driving.
Yeah. Come to Lightbox, man. Come
You know, I was actually thinking I might talk to my students, my core group. So we hit up Illuxcon this year, maybe all meeting at Lightbox next year.
There you go. It's like a yearly field trip. I love it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that.
Give them, it's like, okay, you had a taste of this. Now let's get a taste of the rest of the entertainment industry and see what that's all about. Um, I think that could be a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a
I'm not
great
sure.
trip.
Yeah.
And we could have a reunion like for reals this time.
Yes, we can. I think,
All be
yeah, for sure. We should also do a panel at Lightbox too.
Mhm.
That would be cool.
That'd be very cool.
Oh man.
That's what I really want to do this year, but like everything, we have to plan it.
Yeah.
And have it
Yeah.
this year.
Oh my God.
Because I did get to meet fans. I get to meet a few fans of the show, which was really cool.
That's so
Really?
cool.
Actually, Mike Uwandi he's a fan of our show. Somebody, I was like, I think the coolest thing was I was talking to somebody while I was waiting for an Uber, and someone just like tapped me on the shoulder while like going to their car, and they're like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of the show," and I'm like, "What? Like on the street in the wild? Like that's so cool."
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's really nice to like see the fan base, because I mean again that's where we started, like that's where we started Painted in Color was
Yeah.
at Lightbox. So naturally the people who attended our episodes, they're attending Lightbox, and so yeah, I got to meet some of them in person. It was really nice.
Cool.
Yeah, it's probably like a few fans. I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing something. So yeah, I think we should definitely have like a panel and like maybe like a sketch meetup or something really cool at Lightbox if we can all go next year.
Oh man. All right. Well, now we got to make it happen.
Now we have to make it happen.
We put it out into the world, so now we have
Now,
to
yeah.
We're manifesting it.
Yeah.
Manifesting it by mentioning it.
Oh man. All
Yeah,
right.
that's right. I mean, Bree's there already. Kristen's already there. We're gonna get Edge to come out. That'd be fun. Esther. Oh yeah, I got to see Esther. I got to meet Esther in person.
Oh
For
my God,
real?
I never met Esther in person. That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
forgot to mention that.
Are they tall?
No, they're
Sure.
about my height.
I don't
How
know.
tall are
You're
you?
kind of tall.
I'm 5'5".
Okay, so
Really?
Yeah, I'm average, very average height. Esther's about that height too.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I got to meet them in person. I kept running into them too, like just around, because like they were tabling, and so I was like, oh my God, Esther, and so we hugged and like talked about just like what like what we're doing, and I just kept seeing them like all around the convention hall like after hours and stuff, and I was like, Esther, you're still here.
Great.
So yeah, it was pretty dope to finally get to meet them too.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's like the perfect ground to like have a meetup for Painted in Color.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so we should do it. If you're interested in going to Lightbox or Illuxcon, like go ahead and check out their websites. We'll post them in the description. But they are fantastic, both fantastic, amazing, artistically driven conventions, and a huge source of inspiration. And just get out there, get yourself into that world. But hopefully you enjoyed this talk of us like recapping our experiences. And if you liked what we said, and if you're a fan, go ahead and smash that like button, hit that subscribe, leave a comment, or thank you for participating in the live chat as well. But if you leave a comment, that always gets us more engagement. So please feel free to do so. But thank you all so much for joining us. And we will see you next time. Talk to y'all later. Bye. I'll do it with you, Eric.
There you go.